Today on the show, we share with you an extremely practical way to create content online that not only serves your church, but reaches your community. Well, hey there, Pro Church Nation. Welcome to another episode of Ask Brady. This is episode 6. Thanks for following along. We're going to be answering your questions here about church communications, church media, church digital, church online, church pastors, church kids, church babies.
Church patchers.
I was doing video announcements earlier today, and there was an announcement that talks about like water baptism, and I called it botter waptism. I'm pretty much unstoppable on the teleprompter, but every so often, my brain will have this moment of dyslexia and swap the first letters of two words. And there's something about botter waptism that just sounds funny. I wasn't even upset when I made the mistake. So what's up with you, Roxanne? Jonas was away for a week. It's good. Jonas behind the camera. Good to have you back.
Hey.
Jonas went to Orlando. Little Disney World action, among other things.
Yep.
Roxanne went to a salsa class last night.
I did. It was great fun.
Salsa or salsa?
I say salsa.
My freaking brother-in-law came up to my wife and I yesterday because he also went to the class. He's like, I'm going to a dance class. And we're like, oh yeah, the salsa class. And he was like, the what? And I was like, the salsa class? He's like, do you mean the salsa class? And I was like, I let you live here. You need to leave.
I let you live here.
This is pasta versus pasta all over again.
I always say pasta too, so.
So you say salsa and pasta?
Yeah. All of those long A's.
You need to be consistent.
I can't.
What about bagel versus bagel?
I say bagel.
One of those people get really upset at. There's a whole community episode based on Britta Perry saying bagel instead of bagel.
I
remember that one?
So, yeah. Or milk versus milk.
No.
Maybe that was just my sister.
Milk versus milk?
One of my sisters definitely says
Yeah,
milk.
here in Canada we put our milk in a bag. That's a true story. In Canada, milk in a bag.
It's true.
Is a thing.
It's kind of weird if you.
It's
think
so
about it.
weird. You're a kid and you cut open the milk and it's the first pour and you're like.
No. You have to cut both ends.
What I'm saying is, don't buy milk in a bag.
Although it does conserve space. If you drink a lot of milk, you can just stack those bags.
And it's cheaper because it's in a freaking bag.
Yeah, it's true. Less production.
Can we show a picture of milk in a bag? Let's show a picture so people outside of parts of Canada can get the reference. It's not a thing in Alberta, I don't think.
No, yeah, and I remember somebody posting on Facebook, and it was all these comments we don't have that here. That's
now the majority of Canadians live where we live. We all live really in cluster in this one. It's second biggest country in the world, and we're all let's get as close to America as we can. And we saw the Canadian census for 2016 came out, and it's still the majority of Canadians live within 100 or 50 kilometers of America. So within 50 miles of America.
You want to know why that is?
Why is that?
Cold. We hate it. We don't want to go any further north than we need.
Well, that's definitely the correct reason. I lived in the most northern major Canadian city, and it's. I'll say this: how could a place so cold feel so much like hell? Right?
Now I'm going to get all kinds of angry emails because you said that. And they're all going to be like, it wasn't that bad.
All these angry Edmontonians, it's because you didn't drive a truck.
I think on one of the podcasts you said something about Edmonton being awful.
Yes.
And then the next day I got all these emails Edmonton is not that bad. It has lots of redeeming factors. I don't know, something about the biggest mall, whatever.
This is the problem when you have 30,000 churches on your email list. You can't insult anyone. I was, but the good side of it was at church the other day we had some guest worship leaders and they're like, oh, so what do you do? I was like, oh, I run Pro Church Tools. He's like, Pro Church? Hey, I'm on your email list. I was like, yeah.
Oh, hey.
Okay, exciting things. Today we launched the official countdown page for Nucleus. Nucleus is the church software that we are building. We're wrapping up Development on that, as of today, I think we have 46 days left until the launch. Nucleus.church is the place to do that. Joe, maybe we can show the page with the countdown on it. Counting down second by second. If you want to get on the launch list for Nucleus and hear everything about it, what it is, when it's going down, and be the first to know when it goes live, we're doing a big special discount, big launch. Go to nucleus.church, put your email in there. And right now we're just finishing up the live demo. So it is functional, but like not 100%, it's like 95% of the way there. My hope is that by the time we do next week's episode of Ask Brady, it'll be live, and we can actually like do a big breakdown of what Nucleus is and exactly what makes it so awesome. But in the meantime, go to that launch page, nucleus.church, get on that launch list so you can get access to the exclusive discount and all the bonuses that we'll be doing when we launch it. With that being said, let's jump into the first question.
So the first question is from Terry.
Terry asks, "Hey Brady, I'm really intrigued by your recent podcast on February 8th, emphasizing digital content to better reach millennials. What type of digital content could a local church produce, and do you have any examples of churches excelling in this area?"
So the question that you need to ask yourself when it comes to online content for your church is this. What would we post online if our Sunday service didn't exist? Every single church...
Okay, that's really weird. I don't like it.
It's like that game where you have the knife and you're like, gang, 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 gang. Every single church is posting content online that is just an extension of what they're doing on Sunday, right? And the problem is that attendance of church is going down. We're attending church less than we ever have. And what are the reasons? Pew Research did a study on this, and they asked people who used to frequently attend church, why are you attending less frequently? And people said 50% of the reasons were practical reasons. Busy. Transportation. I don't want to. Not I lost my faith, just, work complications. That was a big one.
Right.
Culture has changed in the last 50 years or so where, Monday to Friday, the 9 to 5 schedule, it's very fluid nowadays. Like people travel, people have more recreational and leisure time. Work extends to the weekend. And so we've got people attending church less frequently, on top of becoming more secular as a country, as a continent, North America. And so you need to be looking at your church's mission statement. Every church mission statement gets distilled down to Great Commandment, Great Commission, love God, love people, make Jesus known, make disciples. How can we accomplish that online? Here's one of my favorite ways to do this. That was like the big macro view. Let's go to the micro view. Here's a really practical way that you can do this. Create what we call a free local events guide. I was talking with a church in Rochester just like yesterday. We were on the phone and he was like, well, what can we do to post content online? This exact same question was asked. And what I said was, create a guide every season. Winter, spring, summer, fall. 67 things to do in Rochester this spring. 99 free things to do this summer with your family in Rochester. 87 fun family activities in Rochester this winter. Create a Facebook ad, distribute it online. The amount of value that you're going to bring not only to your existing church, but to your community, if you pump that through Facebook ads. And if you're wondering how to do Facebook ads, we just did an amazing podcast with Chris Abbott called How a Church of 120 Got 47 New Visitors by Spending $78 on Facebook. So if you want to know, well, how do we get it to our community? It's great. You want to know how to do targeting on Facebook? 18 to 65 within 10, 20, 30 miles of your church. Give that guide away for free. You'll build a ton of goodwill and awareness within your community about your church. Why? Because you're providing value up front. I think about it a lot like a dating relationship. Things in our world used to be a lot simpler. You went to the local butcher down the street, that's where you got your meat. And you went to this barber, and that's where you got your haircut. And then the internet came along and freaking messed up everything. Every industry is being messed up. Netflix, you've probably seen the trailers over the last couple of weeks. War Machine, Brad Pitt. Netflix movie, Brad Pitt. Bright, Will Smith, Netflix movie. Netflix movie with Will Smith. Netflix is taking over. They just took from Paramount the upcoming Martin Scorsese flick called The Irishman, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, stolen from Paramount by Netflix. If you're a film studio right now, Netflix is messing your world up. Every industry is being messed up. Churches, let's not assume that we are immune to this. That would be naive and just patently false. What do you got to do? Think of it like a dating relationship. It used to be that you could just go from 0 to 100. not in dating, but in the world of business and in the world of church, because it was
0 to 100, arranged marriage.
boom. So now what you got to do is, I like to think of like the way you have a relationship with your community in church, the same way that you have a relationship, a romantic one. It starts off, people don't know you at all. So if you go up to someone who's never met you and you're like, oh, I'm physically attracted to this person, I'd like to maybe take them out. What do? You want to make a great first impression, you introduce yourself, you come off well, and after you talk a little, then you say, hey, how about we go on a date? So if you're a church, what do? You want to make a great first impression. If you create a free local events guide, 67 things to do with your family this spring in Rochester, someone sees that, they're like, oh wow, that's awesome, great first impression. Now you follow up with that and you say, hey, one of those free events is actually something that's happening at our church. That's like the first date. You have a great first date. What do you do on a first date? You get dressed up, take out to a nice restaurant, you put your best foot forward. Why? So you can hopefully get a second date. Maybe they come back to the church a second time. Then what happens from there in a relationship? You start going steady. I'm committed to you, you're committed to me, we're going out 3 nights a week, whatever it is. Same thing with church. Okay, I'm going every single week. This is my church, I go every single week. What's the final step? Well, marriage. How does that work at church? Well, you finally commit to becoming a member. You start giving, you start serving, you sign up for a small group, right? But it takes time and steps. There's this progression of relationship, a progression of intimacy. And if you're a church and you're like, come to church this Sunday because we've got a great new series called Gravedigger, it's like, what does that even mean? Actually, I would be interested to know what a sermon series called Gravedigger is about. Like, that'd be a sweet sermon series. Gravedigger.
Maybe you could do like deaths in the Bible, like Lazarus' resurrection and then Jesus' resurrection, like leading up to Easter or something.
Yeah. And then you could talk about how one day you will rise from the grave.
It's true.
Anyway, so that's my best idea on local content. That's a really practical example, and we kind of went off on a side tangent there on this first question. Point being, create something of value. Don't just keep pushing people to your church. You can fight against culture. I mean, Andy Stanley made this great, I think, analogy that someone shared with me this week, is like, culture's like the wind. You can, throw some spit into it, but it's not going to end well. You can ignore it, but you're still going to get blown over. The best thing is to harness that power and go with it, so...
That guide idea is actually like brilliant, because I moved here like a little over a year ago. And when I did, I was like, oh, I wonder what's like happening. It's Niagara Falls, so you'd think there's lots happening. And there is. The problem is like not condensed to one place. Like everybody's advertising their thing separately. So
everyone's advertising their thing.
Yeah.
And you're new, and you don't know.
So I Google it,
If
and then
only
you only
someone
click
who
the
lived
first
here,
10.
if only someone who lived here could create something, because
Right.
they know they're a part of the community I'm not. It's the freaking best idea ever. I know, thank you.
It's true. Giving that away for free.
And you give away that local events guide for free.
All right. Second question comes from Brandon.
Brandon asks, is Snapchat still relevant since the rise of Instagram stories? If so, what is the balance between the two?
If you were following me on Snapchat last summer, when it was becoming especially big, you'll know that I was using it every single day. It was huge. One of the Snapchat stories that I have saved in my phone is me walking into this office when it was just a giant empty concrete box and saying, in a couple months, this is going to be our new space. And then Instagram stories came out. You want to hear something that really sucked for us? I flew to Denver, wrote an entire Snapchat course, recorded it. It was like an hour and a half long. Recorded this amazing hour-long podcast all on Snapchat. Created what I called the ultimate guide to Snapchat for churches. It was like 3,000 words. We created this coordinated effort where the course, the podcast, and the blog all went out on the same day. It was like the ultimate guide to Snapchat for, A to Z. Yeah. What happened that day, Roxanne?
Instagram stories dropped.
The same day. Same day.
What are the odds?
Same day. I get an email from Instagram. They're like, guess what, Brady? We screwed you. No, but it felt that way. You know what? This is what happens. Like, what we're doing with our online, and really with our whole everything that we're trying to do with church has to do with attention. We talk about this. It's one of our axioms here at Pro Church Tools. Attention is the most valuable commodity your church can possess. Doesn't matter if your free local events guide is phenomenal if nobody's paying attention. Doesn't matter if you've got the greatest message of all time. Doesn't matter if you've got, Jesus preaching up there if no one's paying attention. And so the thing is, though, that attention right now in our culture is very volatile. And there's no better example than Snapchat last year. Snapchat was on the precipice of finally becoming that mainstream platform. You know, like finally you had like the 30 to 55 demographic in age being like, well, I guess it's time to get on Snapchat. And Instagram stories came out and everyone 30 to 55 was like, yeah. Right? And think about this. The average lead Protestant pastor is 54 years old. And so most of the leadership in our church is, you know, on that older side. And so right as we were getting like, you know, tipping point to where everyone, you know, our senior leadership was like, I guess we got to go on Snapchat, Instagram stories came out. So there's a couple principles here when it comes to how you should be spending your time and effort. Number one, you need to go deep on one platform before you go wide. Meaning if you don't have Facebook, which is the number one platform for 95+% of churches, if you don't have Facebook locked in, you should not be going anywhere else. Get Facebook locked in, then move to Instagram. Instagram is the second platform you should be on, likely, for the majority of us. And yeah, I think that you should switch your efforts. If you're still going hard into Snapchat stories and you're not in Instagram stories, I would begin the switch. But use the data. That's what we did. We looked at our Snapchat counts, and once Instagram stories launched, they started going down. We looked at our Instagram stories counts, and they were like going up consistently. And right now, I'm getting double the views on Instagram stories that I ever got on Snapchat stories because Instagram for us is blowing up. Instagram.com/Brady Shearer, looking it up, Joe. And Snapchat has been pretty much abandoned by me because we have a variety of platforms we really focus on: Facebook, Insta, YouTube, podcast, article, Twitter. Like that's what we really focus on. And we're going deep on all of those. I'm not ready to take that one more and go into Snapchat, you know? And that's the reason that's the choice we've made. Now, if you're a youth ministry, if you're a student ministry, I was on a student ministry podcast this week and I told them, all we did was talk about Snapchat. They're like, if you had $100 and you were a student ministry, where would you spend that money? Snapchat geofilter, 500 meter or 1 mile radius around the high school. It's so free and you'll get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of impressions, all from students, high school students in your school. Easy. You know that if you're 25 and under and that's your demographic, that's your demo, Snapchat. Because those kids didn't go on Instagram stories when Instagram stories launched. Snapchat, and you have siblings that are this age.
I wanted to add something, but I was waiting.
Go.
I was actually talking to my sisters who are still in high school, and I was like, oh, like should I like switch over? Because I like Snapchat better than Instagram stories. And I was like, am I just like super old? Like, what is this? And my sister who's 17 was like, no, like it's just, if you're famous or if you're like an organization, you should be using Instagram stories. I will watch your Instagram stories. If you're not, if you're just my friend, there's no way I'm watching your Instagram stories. I will watch you on Snapchat. Like her and her friends never use Instagram stories.
The reason that happened was because Snapchat was their platform.
Yeah. I
talked about this on I think the last episode of Ask Brady. We got our 10-year anniversary Facebook gift saying we've been friends for 10 years.
Yeah.
That was our platform. When we were in high school, Facebook launched and we all got on it. We were all like, see ya, MySpace.
Peace.
I remember I got on MySpace and everyone was like, no, Facebook's stupid. And I was like, it's the future.
It's the future.
Proved you, Katie Riddler.
Right? She loved MySpace.
She would not. Anyway, that's an inside baseball. So, but for your siblings and my cousins, who I asked the exact same question, got the exact same response. Snapchat was their platform. When Facebook was dominated by their parents and grandparents, Snapchat was theirs, and it became something that was exclusive for them. And so when Instagram Stories launched, they didn't start migrating over because they're like, why would we migrate over? We have our own thing already. Mm-hmm. Why did people not continue the full migration to Snapchat? Because we already had our thing, which in this instance was Instagram. So, Principle number 1, go deep before you go wide. Principle number 2, look at your stats. Principle number 3, look at your demographic.
Perfect. Question 3 is from Dan.
Dan asks, what are your thoughts on Christian church site designers like sharefaith.com that build the site for you? Or do you recommend going the Squarespace route?
Christian website designers. My buddy Tyler Rominger, he's been on the podcast. We talked about SEO with him, ministrydesigns.com. You got Clover Sites, Ecclesia 360, ShareFaith, which was mentioned, Church OS, among others. Those are just the 5 that come to mind right now. I know I'm forgetting. There's a lot of website designers that create websites for churches. I have yet to find one that creates websites that I think look really good. The themes always seem to be 1824, in ShareFaith's case, 24 years, not months, behind the trends. Yeah. And not even trends, just what's acceptable. Like I was having a conversation today with someone and they're like, yeah, my website, yeah, we're just getting it responsive. And I was like, we're just getting it responsive? It's like 2017. How is it not responsive? Like, oh, well, we're using this platform provider by X, Y, and Z, which I will not name. And I was like, get out of here. Like, so for most churches, I still think WordPress and Squarespace is the way to go. But interestingly, I've spent the whole day thinking about this. Like, there's not a great solution still for churches and websites that I've yet to find. And there's a variety of different reasons for that. Church websites are unique. A lot of the church websites that I look up to and think are really great have amazing sermon engines. You know, like that's a huge part of a church website. Another part is giving, event registration. And all of these things aren't simple, let's put up a cool looking website. They have to do with, well, how are we tracking the people that are registering for events? You know, does that go into our church management system? The sermon series engine, like you could have a cool theme from WordPress or Squarespace that has audio, video, or blog, kind of like archetypes, but sermon series are unique and they're different. And how do you create, because that's unique to churches as well. And then you've got giving, and giving is a beast, not just because you have to like track taxes, track who's giving, distribute charitable receipts, but then you've got online giving, recurring giving, in-person giving, text to give, like, that's a beast in its own. And that's why like you've got companies like Planning Center that are doing a great job. That's an amazing software company. What makes Planning Center, the advantage they have is that everybody uses them. And they're not cheap, but they're so integral to the functions of the week by week service that everyone's with them. And so they have the money to create something that's awesome. I mean, I'm hating on church website designers, but I've seen what they charge. They charge like nothing. When you're Squarespace, you can charge $10 a month because you have a multi-million person user base. Right. But when you're a church, business, even if you have 10,000 plus churches subscribe, which I think Clover does, they're like the biggest one, they're still only charging $25 a month. And if you expect them to not only create websites that look stunning and are up to date, but also figure out giving, event registration, church management system, it's just like, wow, it goes on and on and on. So there's a couple problems here. Churches still want to pay basically nothing for websites.
Yeah.
They look at Squarespace and they say, $10 a month, that's what I should pay for a website. Like, that's obscene. When we build websites, they're like $100,000. And then you have companies like, Squarespace, cheap, so then churches get in their mind, okay, I should spend like in between 10 and like $20 a month on a website. But the problem with Squarespace is it doesn't have all the features they want. Looks great, affordable, doesn't have all the features. So then they go, okay, let's check out church ministry web designers in particular. Okay, same price, good or similar. Features that we want, but everything looks like it's from 2005, 2010. It doesn't look great. So there's no perfect solution. Right. So the perfect solution is dropping $50K and getting it developed custom. But I think one perspective shift that churches can make is like, look, your website is one of the most integral parts of what you do as a church nowadays. Like, it's huge, and you've got to be able to be willing to spend some money on it. And so, we're developing Nucleus. That's going to fill the role of events and next steps and forms and registrations and ministry signups and all that stuff. And that's like one step in the right direction. But there is still no perfect solution, and so good luck.
Good luck. Well, that was encouraging. Question 4 comes from Mark.
Mark asks, on the topic of rogue pastors, how would one gracefully advise a friend of theirs who is a chronic oversharer on social media, especially if they are a boss, pastor, leader, etc.?
Last episode of Ask Brady, we talked about how if you don't have rules and kind of guidelines in place when it comes to sharing online and on social media, you'll have pastors that just really aren't fluent with the language and with the kind of best practices of social, sometimes go rogue and just share stuff that, hey, we have a style guide and you just posted something that was all papyrus fonts. Or, hey, we have a posting strategy and, yelling at Obama isn't part of that most of the time. So hey, he's also not the president anymore, Pastor, but can we move on? So in this instance, it sounds like, how do you rein those people in? Again, one of the problems when you have the senior leadership really leaning to the older age group means they're just not as fluent with the language of online as others. And so, it's really difficult when you are the subordinate. In this case, that's what's the person's name?
Mark.
That's what Mark is talking about. Like, hey, this is my boss. This is someone who's above me in leadership. How do I rein them in? That can be tough. What I'll go back to again, which I've said before, is that if you have a non-individual set of guidelines and rules, be like, look, as a church, this is what we've all agreed on. When you go to someone and ask them to change their behavior, if you have that existing set of guidelines, existing set of rules and best practices, you don't have to tell them that they're doing a bad job. You just say, hey, look, this is what we've decided to be, and right now you're outside of that. You agreed to this. Like, this is what we all wanted as like a church. Can we get back on this? This is why you need to have these rules in place. Mark is coming from a position like, I've already had a pastor go rogue. Maybe he doesn't have these set of guidelines in place, and now he's got to like kind of go backwards. That's tough. Everyone watching and listening, take heed of like Mark's situation. Don't wait until this happens and then try to do damage control after. Create these guidelines, get everyone on board now, and then you won't have to rein in people that are, walking outside. Like the analogy we always use is like, you go to Jonas, he was just at Disney World. You go to a theme park, you want to ride on a roller coaster, you got to be this tall to ride. If you want to post on social media, here are the prerequisites. You got to hit these markers before we deem this something we want to post. So when someone goes outside those lines, colors outside the lines, if you never told them to color inside the lines to begin with, it can be tough. So create it beforehand. In Mark's situation, what I would do is create a document, create a set of guidelines that your senior person, pastor, whoever this person is, signs off on that are completely not pointed at him or her. Yeah. And then the next time it happens, you come in and be like, hey, remember when we decided these were the guidelines? Less Obama.
Less Obama.
Look, I get it. You're upset. It's over. You won. Trump's in.
I was just picturing like making the document and it's like example section, literally just some copy paste of like their like tweet or whatever, like blur out the name, like not like this, not that we're pointing any fingers.
It's like you keep like the first name, but like you blur out the last name. That could be any Pastor John.
Right?
That does it for this episode of Ask Brady. Thanks so much for following along, listening, and watching. If you want your question answered, all you have to do is #AskBrady on Twitter and Instagram, or post your question in the comments below this video on Facebook or YouTube with the #AskBrady, and we're going to add your question to the list. Question for you today, Pro Church Nation, is what are you using for your church's website? We talked about different solutions and how none of them are perfect. What are you using? Are you doing it yourself with WordPress or Squarespace? Are you using a Christian service provider? Or did you code it from scratch with an agency or by yourself? Let us know in the comments below. This is an ongoing conversation that I want to hear more about. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode next Friday.